This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So if you guys are online, do you guys see my slideshow here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, with that, it is 7 o'clock. Let's go get started. I'm just going to go ahead and just take a quick roll. So maybe if you guys wouldn't mind just saying your name, position, chapter, and then after you say that, then mute yourself. So I think we're going to have about 15 or 20 guys on this call, and sometimes the background noise can be kind of ridiculous. So Corey Rigler, Graham Prater.
Hey guys, Jack Davis, Consul of Beta Pi, and with me is Kyle Willett, Queester, Cooper Baskins, Recruitment Chair, and Max Sorich, Magister.
Garrett Mott, Pro Consul of Beta Pi, Oregon State. I'm studying right now as well, so.
Michael Conan. Go ahead.
I am Skylar Soto. I am on the chapter advisory board for Beta Pi, along with Michael Conan, who's up next.
Yeah, Michael Conan, same story as Skylar. We're Hafez's minions for Beta Pi.
Michael Berger, Regional Chapter Support Coordinator for the Northwest from headquarters.
Okay. Do we have anybody from Beta Iota or Delta Zeta?
Yeah, I'm here right now. I'm doing dishes, and then I think some of the other guys are hopping on.
Yeah, Corey Hayden here.
Okay.
Kevin Lovely here.
All right.
My name's Daryl Fuller. I'm a Delta Zeta alumni, and Ron Cascondi invited me to join the call.
Oh, hey, Daryl. Is Ron on the call as well?
I'm Gino Peretti, and I'm a Delta Zeta, and Ron has also invited me to join this call.
All right. Gino, thank you. I actually sent you an email the other day. I hope we can connect in Portland soon.
Yeah, I just noticed on the letter that Ron sent me that, or maybe it was your note on the bottom here, that you live in Salem, but you work all day in Portland.
That's right. That's right.
Well, great, yeah. I'll give you a call. We'll have lunch or something. Maybe Bob Joseph is a very good friend of mine, and he'd probably be. He's always at work.
That's perfect. Okay, great. And then is Steve Nass on the call as well?
Yeah, I just got on.
Okay, great.
I'm gonna keep you on mute because I got kids in the background watching TV. So.
No problem. That's great. Okay, is there anybody that I've missed? Okay. Well, guys, thank you guys all for your time. If you guys just want to go ahead and mute, there'll be times when we'll unmute, but basically this is just an opportunity for us to kind of all come together and kind of level set expectations and really make sure that we're on the same page. And we are very fortunate. We've got an extremely small province of only 3 chapters. So that means that we have some big chapters, but we can also kind of be a little nimble. And I don't know who caller 4 is, but I'm going to mute that person. So I hope that helps. And actually, Berger, that looks like we got feedback from you now. Okay, so what we're going to do, just some quick introductions so we can put some names to the faces. This is our agenda. I think we'll be done in about 30, 45 minutes. Sorry.
Hey, sorry. Until next.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm just gonna mute a few of you guys just so we can not be dying from all the from all the feedback. So anyway, so here's the agenda. We're gonna have some welcome and introductions, just a quick state of the union from a province level and a fraternity level, some important deadlines and events. Really, this is an opportunity for us to set some expectations. We're gonna have province conference in about a month, but I'd like for us to do some sort of check-in even before. That way, one of the things that we can do is just really make sure we're on the same page and we're supporting each other and we're aware of anything, aware of any issues before they become issues. So, okay. So let's go ahead and introduction. Berger, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Berger. I am the Regional Chapter Support Coordinator from headquarters overseeing the Northwest, which includes the Oregon province. Originally, I'm from South Carolina, went to the University of South Carolina. For the past 8 or 9 years or so, since graduating from graduate school, I've worked in higher education, student affairs, mostly in Greek life and student leadership. And I've been working in this position, which is kind of a new model, I guess, in deployment of the chapter support department from headquarters for about 1.5 years now. And like I said, I do overseeing the Northwest, which includes the Northwestern province, Oregon, California Bay Area, Central Valley, as well as the Big Sky. And I just provide support and as an advocate role for all the chapters in the region.
So, Michael, if you could kind of distill maybe like the top, what are the most important things that a chapter or officer should reach out to you directly for?
Absolutely. As we all know, in Sigma Chi, we pride ourselves with all of our advisors for a significant chapter, specific chapter, as far as volunteers go, and your chapter advisor in Grand Prater. And I know it could be kind of, I guess I'll use the word confusing when you throw in somebody else, especially from headquarters like myself. But just to go on that, as well as what Riggs just said, really what my role is, and as far as what you can come to me for, are any specific items that are maybe not clear, you're not clear on, that are coming from headquarters, as far as deadlines, who to go to for certain items from headquarters. Obviously, if it's not myself, then I would definitely redirect you. Really just chapter operations. I know that the Grand Praetor, of course, is given the role of monitoring P4B status as far as your pledges, e-learning, but that is something that I do as well. And as far as, I'm not saying that I'm the technical guy as far as, the computer part, but if there's any whatsoever issues, concerns, or, mishaps with pledges or yourself as a Magister logging into Sigma Chi U, or I guess now Top Class, as well as with any other officers logging in the chapter system, trying certain things, that would be myself you would come to, as well as just general resources, I suppose. A lot of the times I'll be coming to you, but at the same time, it's more the specific items, I guess, that you can come to me for.
Great, thank you. One other thing I'll say is that even back when I was an undergrad, there was kind of this mentality that guys in headquarters were spies or something like that, and I definitely want to make sure that that is not, that it's not the perception here. Anybody who works for headquarters, they work their absolute tail off, and they do it because they love the fraternity. So we just always want to make sure we're treating them with respect and treating them like brothers. And I think a lot of what Michael does is probably just remind people of deadlines and help them out if a deadline is missed or coming up. And so, I think the more that we can stay on top of that stuff, the more we'll be able to use him to his full potential. But Michael is a super important part of our overall team, along with our chapter advisors and house corps presidents. And for those alums, I'm very, very grateful that you guys are on the call as well. And then here's me. I'm the one that's not Mike Ditka. I go by Riggs. So if you have any questions or need to get a hold of me, Corey is usually my professional designation, but everyone in the fraternity calls me Riggs. So I've been basically a volunteer with the fraternity really since my graduation from University of Montana in '98. I've been a chapter advisor for CU Boulder and University of Denver. I have, I was on the committee that helped run the workshop for about 5 or 6 years, in charge of several divisions. I was on the committee that created Horizons. I was on the committee that created the P4B Pledge program. as well as a few other things. So I think I'm pretty well connected. And really, my whole goal as Praetor was not to be Praetor, not to give myself another Sigma Chi experience, but I've just had an incredible Sigma Chi experience. And, my goal is to make sure that you guys even have an experience that surpasses mine. So let's get some of the stuff out of the way, but these are my goals as the Praetor. First of all, I want to make sure that you guys, I would say, most guys that I know probably have their Sigma Chi experiences, maybe, I don't know, gosh, maybe like an 8 out of 10, maybe a 7 out of 10. I'll say my undergraduate experience was about probably an 8 or 9 out of 10, but my alumni experience has probably been about a 1,000 out of 10. So I really want to be able to give you guys that. How are we going to do that? We're going to spend, as much time and resources as we can on giving you executive skills and practical skills that will make you really successful after college. That's really, really important to me that we help develop you guys. Some of the stuff that we're actually doing is actually working with some of the different alumni groups in Portland and Salem and Eugene to even do things like put on a career day or something like that, or resume workshops, interviewing workshops. Another real priority for me is bench strength. So what are the things that you guys are doing now? Some of you guys are newly installed as officers, but are you already identifying like, hey, who are the 2 or 3 guys that are going to take your position next? And if so, what are the things that you're doing to develop them now? So one of the things that is really tough for me as a Praetor is I'm not in a position where I can have anybody try to reinvent the wheel, because when that happens, then this pendulum shift goes back and forth. So instead, let's find these people, let's nurture them, let's develop them, let's expose them to opportunities, so that way they can build upon what you've already created. And then also, obviously, leadership and development is a priority. I don't like playing cop. I don't like playing bad guy. If I could, I would spend all my time just helping you guys to become better officers and better leaders. So, I know that I've muted damn near everybody, but is there any questions or anything that anybody might have?
Well, worthy Grand Praetor, I'm a little late to the call. My name is Bob Joseph, and I'm here to listen and learn. But I did want to thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you, Bob. It's always great to have someone of your stature join the call. So we appreciate it a lot.
I've never had the thousands of years of experience that you have. So I'm going to learn something from you tonight.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for setting that extremely low expectation. So, so some of the people on the call I've had the opportunity to work with real closely, others not. So again, I like to be fully transparent. Here's my goals, but also here's absolutely my hot buttons. If my goal is to tell you guys this up front, so that way you can be aware and manage expectations. I think for the alumni that are on the call, for the advisors especially, really one of the most important thing is if something happens, you need to tell us right away, and you need to give us a complete story right away. That way, in the event that there's a call from the university or the dean's office or the conduct office, we not only have the whole story, but we can already say that, hey, we know about this, we're holding people accountable. We've already got a plan in place. I firmly believe that one of the reasons things have changed so much with this current landscape at universities is because I think they're extra draconian and extra harsh with chapters and with the Greek system, because there's this perception that Greeks can't take care of themselves and chapters can't hold themselves accountable. So let's change that perception, and let's own it. So accountability is a real big thing for me. Another thing that I absolutely can't stand is when any initiated brother basically refers to their actions by the Jordan standard. And I guess what I mean by that is it's so worthwhile to just spend a second on this, but the whole point of the Jordan standard is a minimum standard which we use to evaluate potential recruits, right? So that means that every single person who's a member of the chapter has already met all the qualifications of the Jordan Standard. Once we become initiated brothers, we should stop holding ourselves accountable to the Jordan Standard and instead hold ourselves accountable to things like the ideals, right? So, this kind of makes sense, right? Rather than being a man of good character, we want to work to become a man of great character. And after that, we want to work on becoming a man of integrity. Same thing with being a student of fair ability. Let's be a student of excellent ability. Let's be a man of wisdom, right? So, the challenge, one of the challenges that I see with chapters and with brothers is by using the Jordan Standard as a yardstick for behavior and standards, they end up being lower standards. And I think that, the chapter and the man is only really as good as the standard they hold themselves to. So let's make sure that pledges are held to the Jordan Standard. Let's make sure brothers are held to the ideals. Super important, massive pet peeve of mine. Now you know. One other thing is I am extremely anti-hazing. As I mentioned, I was on the board that created the P4B. As part of my own background, I came from a hazing chapter, so I was hazed as part of initiation. In turn, I was actually a hazer myself, and I was a pretty darn good one. And at some point, I basically discovered that it just did not work, and I didn't like it, and it really had nothing to do with Sigma Chi. I will say that I can really point to what's a chapter that hazes and which does not, just based on the brotherhood and the separation between the brothers, primarily along pledge class lines. And so if my policy is if somebody, if a brother is accused of hazing, they'll immediately be suspended from the chapter. We'll go ahead and we'll take them through the due process in terms of a judicial board. In the event that brother is found guilty, I will do everything I can to kick that person out of the fraternity, but I will also go to the university and see if we can expel them on the grounds of violating the student code of conduct. So I'm pretty serious about it. But the good news is I don't think that really any of our chapters are hazing chapters. There might be a one-off here or there, but for the most part, I think we're pretty good, but I absolutely would never want that sentiment to creep back in. Another thing is my hot button is really that, your chapter meetings, your initiations are by the book, and by the book, I mean the ritual book. If you insert your own stuff into it, then that is, goes against the ritual, and I'm a pretty big fan of the ritual. So one last thing is I live in Salem, work in Portland, do a lot of stuff, busy family, busy job. So anytime there's a last minute notification of events, meaning like, hey, we've gotten a rush event tonight or initiation this weekend, can you help? That's not going to fly. So, but are there any questions so far? Are you guys good? It's gonna start picking up here in just a second, I promise.
Yeah.
Okay. So some of the stuff that I really kind of want to focus on is I feel like there's been a lot of policy changes to the fraternity. For those alums who are on the call, we now have a standardized pledge program called P4B, or Preparation for Brotherhood. What that means is every single pledge at every single chapter has to go through the exact same pledge program. And regardless of where your chapter is, it has to be the exact same. There's no deviations. And initially when P4B was rolled out, it came out as an 8-week program, and there was a lot of resistance to it. One of the main pieces of resistance to it was necessarily because it was perceived as something to punish chapters that hazed. It was really viewed as an attempt to get hazing chapters into a non-hazing status, and that's really only part of the picture. So I think I had a pretty in-depth conversation with Max and possibly even with Kevin about this, McGeester's at Beta Pi and Beta Iota. But there's basically kind of 3 changes or 3 reasons why this P4B exists. The first is that the university landscape has just changed. From when I was an undergrad, from 93 to 98, it used to be such that if a fraternity got in trouble, it was kind of, maybe they got in, like, their hands slapped or social probation, or they lost a party, And now if something is happening, especially hazing, rather than giving a hand slap, rather than suspending the chapter, they're shutting down the entire Greek system. Recent examples include Florida State, University of Texas, a few other places, but it's a challenging environment to be a fraternity man nowadays. The other thing, even with preparation for, or even before preparation for brotherhood, there were chapters who say didn't necessarily haze, but even in the chapters that don't haze, one of the real disturbing statistics is that on a national or international average, basically less than 2% of all initiated brothers do anything with Sigma Chi after they graduate from college. And that's a staggeringly low number. And so what are the things that we can do to really reinforce from day one that, yeah, this is a lifelong commitment and there's really benefits, and advantages to be derived from this. And the last thing is really that, initiation, if we think about the definition of it, it really means to begin something. And I can't tell you how many times I've been to an initiation where, we're doing the little good of the order, and here's these newly initiated brothers, and they should be super excited about this journey of, becoming an active brother. And instead, that one of the biggest sentiments is like, oh man, I'm glad that's over. And it's kind of crazy and it's kind of scary. And one of the reasons for that is because so many chapters, the whole point of their pledgeship was not to create a great brother, but rather to create a great pledge, right? So one of my favorite activities to do is ask, guys, go ahead and recite the Jordan Standard to me, and they'll rattle it off by perfect rote memory. And then I'll say, well, now deliver the charge, or give me a founder's part, or the Spirit of Sigma Chi. And they can't do it, right? So I think what Sigma Chi is doing a great job of is we're really kind of saying, okay, let's have some stuff in preparation for brotherhood, but let's also spread it around. So now, even before pledgeship, we're introducing some of these concepts in the recruitment process through Mission 365. And now the post-initiate training is now something called Ritual for Life, or R4L. So anyway, it's still a lot of the same concepts, the same material. It's just spread out over 3 different programs instead of just the pledge program. I'm sure there's people on this phone call who were probably a little bit disappointed or upset when we went from an 8-week pledge program last year to a 5-week pledge program this year. And really the number one thing that I can say to that is that there was 5 deaths in the Greek world last year, and they were all associated with hazing. And so if we take a look at the 3 biggest fraternities, we've got Sigma Chi, SAE, and SIGEP. And then number 4, I think, is ATO or Phi Delta, I don't know. But basically, of the top 3 or top 4, Sigma Chi is actually the only fraternity left that even actually has a pledge program. For the other fraternities in the top 3 or top 4, people are pledged, and basically they're initiated within 24 to 72 hours. Okay, so Sigma Chi does believe inherently in the value of a pledge process where we can go ahead and evaluate men before we bring them into membership, and where they can also evaluate us before they become lifelong members. So we think it's important. The data is actually really encouraging, where there's some schools, that basically the school has mandated, no more than a 3-day pledge program, and Sigma Chi is the only exception. And in fact, just south of us, I think Cal State Chico, the Dean of Students has actually created their entire pledge program. So if you want to join a fraternity or sorority, you have to go through the Dean of Students 16-day pledge program. The only exception to that is Sigma Chi, because our P4B program, he's admitted, is superior to what he offers. So that's kind of the why behind P4B, not just because I am was played a small role in its creation, but really I think it's created better brothers. So I think everybody on the call, all the active brothers have gone through P4B. Is there anything maybe you guys want to share or have questions about P4B that I've overlooked? And again, I'm asking this question because I know there's some alumni in the question who might not be that familiar with P4B. Okay, well, I'm going to take that as a no then and moving on. I think we've already talked about the Jordan Standard, and then also a really important aspect for me is leadership development. So we will have a lot of programming for our province that deals with leadership development. So I'm pretty excited about that. Okay, so the state of the province, we are very fortunate. We've got a small province, all within very close proximity of each other. We are all in kind of different scenarios. We've got Beta Iota at University of Oregon. In my mind, great chapter, great men, great brothers, but having a lot of issues with the university right now. So later on the call, we're going to do a chapter check-ins, but basically just long story short, the chapter was basically had its fall pledge class taken away from it. There was some allegations that the chapter was doing things, and basically just so you guys kind of know what's out there, because I think some of this was happening with Beta Pi as well. But somebody was calling a bunch of the potential new members and basically saying, are you interested in joining Sigma Chi? Yes. Okay, well then go in the closet. And then they asked these guys to do sexually inappropriate things. But this person identified himself as like a pledge trainer or president of Sigma Chi. And enough of these calls happened, and they all happened through a block number, so we don't know who it was, but basically the chapter was essentially penalized, and we've just been dealing with kind of one thing after another with the university. So, the impact of not being able to have a fall pledge class has been pretty significant. So I think the chapter has done an incredible job of rallying and keeping up morale. But a lot is on the line for these guys. So again, moving forward, I think what I'm going to do is, what are some of the things that we can do to support Beta Iota? To either help them with the recruitment process or initiation or what have you. Then moving on north, we got Beta Pi at Oregon State, who is actually doing really well. They won a Peterson last year at BLTW, which is fantastic to see because 2 years prior to that, they had a membership review and about 70 guys got cut from the chapter. So doing really well. They had some weird financial challenges, but I think we've gotten past that, which is great. And then we've got, and then the last chapter, Delta Zeta at Willamette. Again, great group of men, but they're a smaller chapter and they have had some challenges with, that basically come with having a smaller chapter, including challenges with finances, and the chapter or the school also has a deferred recruitment. So we got to make sure that we are doing year-round recruitment with that chapter in particular. So anybody have anything they want to chime in on, and in case I've missed anything? Okay. Actually, can somebody just chime in and make sure that there's still people on, that I'm just not talking to myself?
No, you sound good to me. You're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're here.
Whew. Thank you. Okay, so other big high-level stuff from just kind of the state of the fraternity, the fraternity is always a lot bigger than just the Oregon province. Lots of crazy stuff is happening in the Greek world. I have to tell you, every day I think I wake up and thank God that I'm not an undergrad right now. The challenges you guys have are absolutely insane compared to what I had to deal with. For example, Harvard University, they've basically said that if you're a member of a single-sex organization, then you are actively prohibited from joining any other club or having a leadership position or being in an honor society. So basically what they're doing is they're saying that single-sex organizations are outlawed. And Sigma Chi along with Kappa Alpha Theta and a few other stories have basically challenged that. But imagine not being able to get a scholarship or be in an honor society or do anything else just because you're Sigma Chi. It's crazy. Also, Balfour Leadership Training Workshop has been changed to Kroc Transformational Leaders Workshop. This should be awesome. Keith Kroc, very famous Sigma Chi, past Grand Consul. He's a billionaire. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but Keith Kroc, he was actually just named that he's going to play a role in Trump's administration under the Secretary of Commerce. So we're pretty excited about it. But basically, if you haven't been to workshop before, this should be extremely different. And it's really about how do we create transformational leaders, not just in the chapter, but we want to teach the skills that even after college is done. How can you be part of an organization and change it for the better, right? So I think too many people kind of come into an organization or a situation and they think they can do exactly what the person before them did and be successful. And we really want to give you the tools and skills to do that. The Sigma Chi Foundation is doing incredibly well. Lots of opportunities here within the province for scholarships, for things like BLTW, for things like Horizons. Really awesome. Also, enhanced health and safety policies. We do have an alcohol policy that prohibits things like drinking with pledges, no parties during pledgeship, things like that. We've also developed a Good Samaritan policy, which is really important, which basically means that, you know, if somebody is drinking or has been hurt or something like that, it's okay for you to take them to the emergency room. It's okay for you to get help without fear of repercussion from the fraternity. One of the causes of that, if any of you guys followed the thing at Penn State, there was that pledge Michael Piazza, right? He got drunk, he fell downstairs, guys kicked him, beat him up. Between the alcohol poisoning and the trauma, he died. But this happened over about maybe like a 12-hour period, and there was specifically members in the chapter who said, we would have called the cops, or we would have called an ambulance, but we were afraid of getting in trouble, right? So we want to take that away from you guys, and but you know, and it's pretty significant, you know. And in fact, I'll give Beta Iota credit. So they had something earlier this year where you know, there was actually a hospital transport. There was a guy going through recruitment who had too much to drink, and one of the active brothers, you know, took him to the hospital. And I mean, Corey and Owen, maybe you guys can chime in, but to the best of my knowledge, you guys haven't received any type of penalties for that decision, right? In terms of the hospital transport?
Yeah, no, from Sigma Chi we have not. And so that's been really good on our end, because we got to deal with that brother that drank with him internally, because that's obviously not something we stand for, and not something that was even necessary. We were having a great recruitment up until that point. But I mean, yeah, just to give Riggs credit, you know, he really does put his money where his mouth is. We called him the next day and told him this is what's going on, this is what's happened, and he helped guide us through it. So we do appreciate you actually living up to that, Riggs.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Corey. Yeah. Well, it's important, right, that we all kind of know where we stand. So let's see. This is just kind of just overall stuff. Again, from kind of real high level stuff with the fraternity. Basically, what's great about Sigma Chi is that we are experiencing fewer chapter closures. The ones we are experiencing, though, are the results of hazing and alcohol. So, you know, so we do need to figure out a way to curb that. I'm hoping that the 5-week pledge program will help. And again, I will say that, you know, this stuff is not coming from our province, right? I mean, this is largely coming from, dare I say, the SEC schools. We just need to make sure that it doesn't creep into our province. So we absolutely need to be vigilant about it. If we keep moving on, Preparation for Brotherhood is a 5-week pledge program. Everybody here should have gone through it. One of the aspects about P4B, for the alumni on the call who are not familiar with P4B, basically all the materials have been created in advance. They are supposed, you know, the McGeesers basically all present from kind of the same slide deck and the same curriculum. An additional component, though, a supplemental component, is there is an online piece that is pretty fascinating. So I think there's maybe a total like 6 hours of online content that has things like interviews with Doug Carlson or Dick Hester or somebody, and it basically gives a little bit more in-depth information into like the history of the ritual or the history of the founders, things like that. So pretty incredible resources. I mean, I actually wish that I would have had it. I would say if you guys are on the call and if you want to know more about P4B, please go ahead and reach out to me and we will figure out a way to get you a username and password. That way you can go through it yourself. I really do think that one of the bigger threats to P4B is not the undergraduate brothers. I actually believe it's alumni. And what I mean by that is alumni who basically come back and say, oh, I wish you guys still did Green Machine or did this activity or this activity. And it kind of plants that seed. So what we need to do is really make sure that nope, P4B is what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. And if you can actually spend the time to look at it yourself, I think you'd agree that P4B is probably better than what you had and what you went through. Another really exciting update for this year is that the Ritual for Life program is going to be rolled out, and we are unbelievably excited about this. So Ritual for Life used to be known as post-initiate training. One of the things we had here in Oregon not too long ago was a ritual peer training, and I know Michael Conan and a few others who are there are on the call. And basically, this is so exciting. So what we're going to do is basically just like what we've done for the preparation for Brotherhood, we're really going to standardize this Ritual for Life or this post-initiate training, because here we've had all these brothers who have gone through the same preparation to be initiated. They've now gone through the same initiation. Now let's give them the same training after initiation to let them know, here's what you went through. Here's the history of the organization. Here's the super secret cool stuff. And even more importantly, here now are the expectations that you voluntarily agreed to, right? So we believe that this will make for more engaged brothers after initiation. You know, typically what kind of happens is, you know, pretty much across the board, you know, most chapters, guys after their sophomore, even their junior year, kind of start checking out, right? So this is a way to keep them more engaged for a longer period of time, and we're pretty excited about it. One other change is it's very likely that the proconsul will not be delivering the preparation for life, or sorry, the Ritual for Life. This will probably change to either the ritual chair or the custos. So we are asking for BLTW, or sorry, for KTLW in August to consider sending those guys as well. Okay. Let's see. I think we've kind of addressed some of this stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and pause. Are there any questions so far? Okay. I know it feels like a data download.
I wanted to ask you a question. Jacob Kiefer, our former consul, said that potentially one of the things is, like, in terms of educational leadership, is that in the future you might be able to see college credits in terms of like completing P4B and stuff like that. Is there any update, or do you know anything about that?
It's a great question. So that was Jack Davis, the consul at Beta Pi, and the past consul, 2 consuls ago at Beta Pi, Jacob Kiefer, he's actually one of the undergraduate reps on the Education Leadership Board. And the ELB is basically what runs Workshop, which runs Horizons, which runs a number of things. One of Sigma Chi's missions is to be the preeminent leadership development program in the world, not just a fraternity, but a leadership development program. And so what we in Sigma Chi are doing is actually, we have what's called a leadership continuum, where our thought is that what we can do is, yeah, if somebody goes through P4B or R4L, we can give college credits. And we're working currently with Purdue and a few other institutions to do that. The accreditation process is pretty lengthy. I know because I'm on the accreditation committee for the fraternity. But one of the, you know, what's exciting is that, yes, there's all these things that we're able to kind of start building for undergraduates, but there's even programming that we're trying to build for alumni. That way, say if an alumni wants to take a conflict resolution or a how to give or receive feedback or public speaking, something like that, they can also receive college credits, and which is important because, you know, there's a lot of positions out there where, if somebody, the difference between a bachelor's degree and a master's degree it can really change a lot in terms of the doors that are open. So we're pretty excited about it, but I think that that's probably anywhere from another 1 to 5 years away, Jack.
I agree with you. It's easily 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
I've learned all about this through my position on the Board of Governors of the Foundation. It's just going to take that long because you're talking about academics and accreditation. No question about it.
Yeah. Okay. So again, one of my jobs one of my requirements as praetor is to go to every chapter at least once a quarter. Ideally, what I'd like to do is attend an executive committee meeting and a chapter meeting. I will tell you that can be challenging for me. So I've got my kids about half the time. I do have them every Monday, Tuesday, every other Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if your chapter has a meeting on a Monday night, it's unfortunately it's kind of unlikely that I'll be able to attend. But if you guys would consider moving it for a special occasion, that would be great. Otherwise, at the bare minimum, what I like to do is go to an exec meeting. But I think these are good ground rules. And if I do attend, not if, but when I attend, I think these are good guidelines. One is that your chapter meeting should really be about 80% brotherhood and only 20% business, right? So really, if you can spend the majority of the chapter meeting doing literary exercises, doing the friendship circle, doing the good of the order, that should really be what the majority of the meeting is about. And if you're askew, if you're doing too much business, that's not a fun meeting to be at, right? And that's really not reinforcing the brotherhood. So a lot of times what I've discovered is the proconsul has an extremely important job, because if the proconsul is running their executive committee meetings effectively and efficiently, it has a direct impact on how well the chapter meeting runs. So I was in charge of the proconsul division at Workshop for about 3 or 4 years. So that is a real, I think hopefully a resource that I can bring to you guys. I really want to make sure your executive meetings are as professional as they can be, because not just will it result in better brotherhood, but I really want you guys to graduate from college and be, when you enter the professional workforce, to go to meetings and contribute and recognize what makes for a good meeting and what doesn't, because I really think that will be a competitive advantage for you. Okay. One other thing that is hugely important for me, this is a Grand Praetor mandate. I want every chapter to have a finance committee. Currently what happens is in most chapters is the quaestor essentially is relegated to a bill collector, and rather a finance committee should be composed of the quaestor and then the recruitment chairman, the magister, the social, and the house manager. Why those guys? Because they're the ones who spend most money. So this finance committee is really responsible for creating budgets, and more importantly, it's a united front to go and help collect money. So if you don't have that, tell me why, and I can help you set it up. But again, this is one of those areas of operational excellence where if we can handle that, I think you'll be amazed at how much smoother things will run. And it also, by doing so, it takes the quaestor from a office into a leadership position, and that's really what we need. Okay. One other thing, unfortunately we had this about this time last year, but we are going to have what's called a quarterly leadership quorum, and what that means is basically once a quarter we'll get together, and we'll probably do some officer skills training, we'll do some leadership training, and we'll but there'll also be a leadership book to read. So everybody here should have received, all the consuls and proconsuls should have received a copy of It's Your Ship from your predecessor. If you haven't, you need to let me know immediately, but we'll talk about it in a second. But it's just quite honestly the best book on management leadership I've ever read. Primarily because it does deal with the effect of leaving a legacy. And I think that this is really important to me because I actually read this when I went to business school and got my MBA, and it continues to astound me. If you can read this book, it really will change the way you lead. It'll change the way you think about your job. It'll change the way you think about your followers. So hugely important. But one of the things we'll do after this call is actually go ahead and schedule that and get it on the books. And then another tool is there's no reason we shouldn't be collaborating. And really, so there's an online province calendar that we can go to. So here's some important dates and deadlines. First and foremost, Horizons applications due today. There's some headquarters things. We have province conference starting March 1st, Friday night at University of Puget Sound in Tacoma, all day Tuesday the 2nd, and then you can either leave late the 2nd or else the morning of the 3rd. But this should be an awesome province conference. It'll be a joint conference with the Northwest province. And so we are planning on having some VIPs come out to do keynotes. We're going to have one elective session where basically there'll be like 4 or 5 different sessions that you get to choose from. One might be like how to use your Sigma Chi experience to get a job after college. One might be how to run a J board. One might be how to host a successful Derby days. One might be something, whatever. Right. But anyway, we think that it's an opportunity to give you guys some programming unique to Sigma Chi and unique to your leadership positions that you wouldn't get anywhere else. And then we'll also have some officer breakouts as well. So if you did attend Province last year, this is going to be a lot more interactive. We're also trying to do things to make it just a lot more fun and really get guys kind of up and moving. Another event that we're going to try to hope to have is even fun things, maybe like a sports tournament, a t-shirt exchange, something like that. Also, we've got a Beta Iota initiation coming up, which is going to be awesome. We've got some annual meetings like Grand Chapter will be in Salt Lake, as well as workshop in August. So Michael Berger, our regional staff guru, is going to be making a swing through the province in April. Here's the dates. And basically, I know we've kind of talked about all this already, but these are just the expectations. So one of the big things with me is take ownership of your relationship between the chapter and the Greek Life Office and Administration. This will be huge in terms of future issues. Okay, I have talked a lot. I apologize for that, but this was really the most efficient way for us to all get on the same page. So what I'd like to do now is let's just have every chapter chime in. So what's going well? What do you think the province needs to know about? Is there any challenges we can help out with? But really the most important thing is what's the single most important thing that you guys need to accomplish or do within the next 90 days. So let's go ahead and start off with Beta Iota. Owen or Corey or Kevin?
Yeah, I can, if Kev wants to chime in after me, you feel welcome, Kev. But so yeah, obviously we've had a tough go at it the last term and a half. Some of it, just being kind of bad luck, and some of it, honestly, we got to kind of hold ourselves accountable and look in the mirror and say, our relationship with our Greek Life Office wasn't as good as it could have been. So we're finally kind of getting back on our feet here. We have our pledge class together. So we're starting our pledgeship officially this Sunday. So we're all really excited and looking forward to that. So next 90 days, our biggest goals are probably going to be, getting that P4B done and done well, because this is going to be the first 5 weeks P4B that we've done. Also, just kind of continuing to build our relationship with our Greek Life Office. We've been trying to do that for past, term or so, but we're going to continue that. And we also have officer transitions coming up here in about a month or two. So continuing to groom our next guys coming in, and so those are our big goals. But honestly, things are looking a lot better around here than they were at this time last term. So not a whole lot of complaints out of us. Kev, do you have anything?
Yeah, Corey really hit the nail on the head with that. We're looking for P4B happening and making a good pledgeship. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I really have to commend the men at Beta Iota. They were just handed an incredibly difficult situation, and they've kept their head up. They've, kept the conduct up. I think they've really acted like true leaders here. So I definitely appreciate all of that, guys. One thing that that is kind of unique is, I will tell you from a Prater perspective, it seems like there's some really disgruntled individuals that have a major problem with the chapter, and the chapter has really kind of been the victim of a lot of these weird anonymous hazing complaints and stories. And so, one of the big challenges that we're going to have to work around is, we kind of want to make sure that there's an alumni present at every single recruitment event, at every single pledge event, not because we don't trust the young men, but because we kind of expect these weird anonymous complaints to continue. And so to have kind of an impartial, an alumni or third party there to refute that, I think is honestly going to be one of the few things we could do, besides just keeping the nose clean. But again, like, what a fabulous attitude. I appreciate the leadership. I appreciate, the conscious choice to not be victims or down in the dumps, man. So I really can't tell you guys how much I appreciate your leadership. So thank you for that. Wonderful.
Yeah, and thank you for your help through all this, Riggs. We really do appreciate it. And Marcus, if you're on the call, I'm not sure if you are, but thank you for all your help too.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay, moving on up the road, Beta Pi.
Hey, so Garrett, you can chime in after if you have anything I missed, but things have been going really well so far. In the fall, we initiated 44 guys, so I don't think we will be necessarily undergoing formal spring rush, but obviously with Recruitment 365, we're always looking for new guys who could potentially join the Brotherhood. In terms of Derby Days, we have that scheduled. We have a couple events throughout the winter, just one day philanthropies, but our big push will be late May. That'll be a 3-day philanthropy where we're trying to kind of finalize all the donations and stuff like that. This year we're aiming for a $100,000 goal. Last year we got to $20,000, and one of our alumni, Bob Gallo, is actually matching us dollar for dollar this year. So we're really stoked about that. In terms of challenges necessarily, I think we're kind of working right now to gain some more freedom underneath the Queester's role. That's kind of our big thing. We've had a little bit of trouble with our financial managers, but I think we're clearing that up right now and kind of letting the Queester have a little bit more freedom on our budget and stuff like that. I think arguably the single most important thing we can focus on the next 90 days is kind of setting some goals for the rest of the year. The rest of the term, and then obviously the rest of our term as officers, and kind of getting our younger guys and newly initiates more involved in the chapter proceedings and kind of the inner workings of the chapter so we can more effectively transition them next year.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think we ended up having 5 guys apply for Horizons, which I know you really wanted, Riggs. And then we also, our alumni really helped us out, gave us a break. We had a Brenda Tracy sexual assault workshop in the fall, which was like a really good look on our part. Thank you to Drew for setting that up, our former consul, but things are looking up right now at Beta Pi.
I tell you what, guys, again, 2 years ago, you guys had a choice, right? The choice was you just been handed, kind of this really tough situation. I think my first official act as Praetor was essentially to suspend or kick out like some 70 guys out of the chapter, which was, I can't imagine a rougher first day in the job. But again, you guys chose leadership. And so, your predecessors and the ones before them have done an amazing job, but I love to hear how you guys are building on it. So again, thank you for the attitude. Thank you for the leadership. One thing that I think kind of one challenge that I'll throw out to Beta Pi, or really to all the chapters, in the event that you guys have only one initiation class a year, I would really love to see as many brothers from the chapters, but especially the newly initiated brothers, to go check out an initiation in another chapter, right? Just because if we don't, I think the risk for say your newly initiated brothers there at Beta Pi is they're not going to see an initiation until fall of 2019. So so I think really for them to again kind of see the other side of it as soon as possible, and again just really have those values and those feelings to be reminded of them and reaffirmed is incredibly powerful. So I would definitely kind of throw that out there to you guys. Okay, so I know we have alums, but do we have any undergrads from Delta Zeta on the call?
You have no undergrads from Delta Zeta?
Well,
do you have a chapter advisor from Delta Zeta?
Steve,
yeah,
are you still on the
here,
call?
Bob. Yeah, I'm here, Bob.
I'm still here, and I don't like what I'm hearing or not hearing.
Yeah, I am too. I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, guys,
This is Daryl Fuller. I'm not a chapter advisor. Thought Ron Coscondi was supposed to be on the call, but for some reason he's not. But we're paying
Daryl,
attention nonetheless.
Are you the chapter advisor?
No, I'm not.
I know you well. Are you on the alumni board, advisory board?
Nope, not that either. But I've recently become more free with my time, so I've offered to do what I can to help. So, which is
let me tell you, Daryl. Hey,
guys,
Riggs,
sorry.
Riggs, hire this guy.
Well, I tell you what, there's no shortage of there's no shortage of a need. So I am, I'm trying to plug in people as fast as I can.
Daryl is an old friend and very qualified.
Well, I'm a young friend, but that's fine, Bob.
Right.
No, I'm his old friend.
So Delta Zeta is actually they've got a recruitment event tonight, and I was hoping that somebody would have been able to sneak away, but so that's why they're on the call. So
boy, this is the beginning. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Conflict.
So Steve, is there any type of updates that you can maybe give the province on behalf of the chapter?
I think from my perspective, I haven't been in tune with what's been going on the last month or so since elections, but I know that the newly elected officers is a great group of guys, both a good mix of those that had leadership positions before, but also several new guys. And so I'm excited. And they had a workshop of sorts with the university and all the other Greek organizations that Willamette hasn't done before. So I really felt like that was a great opportunity for them to kind of intermingle with some of the other Greek houses. But recruitment's going on right now. They're really excited. They had a great class this last year, so they doubled their chapter size just with one class. And so I feel like there's some momentum moving in the right direction. Financially speaking, they've kind of dug out of a huge hole. And I think for the first time in 3 years have a zero balance with headquarters. That's kind of a neat deal. And but as far as I don't know when Derby Days is, and I know that initiation is going to be in mid-April, but I don't know the exact date. And I don't know what their biggest challenges are right now or what they need help with. We have an advisory board meeting next week, and I probably know more information after that.
Delta Zeta's initiation is scheduled for March 16th right now.
March, okay.
Was that Tom?
No, that was Michael.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So, I think Delta Zeta, again, great group of guys. They had just done a tremendous job in the last 2 years. I'll tell you from a Prater perspective, they need help with recruitment. So if there's any way that, say Beta Pi or Beta Iota, you guys are not recruiting, because you don't need to, and yet you've just elected somebody, a great thing to do, honestly, would be to take your new recruitment chair or your recruitment committee and find a way to help out Delta Zeta. And quite honestly, if I was going through recruitment, I think it would be pretty incredible to go to a chapter house that had guys from a few different chapters, right? I mean, that's one of the big highlights of Sigma Chi is how big and massive our alumni network is, and and how important it is that we're the biggest fraternity. And anyway, that's what I want, but I can't make you guys do that. But man, I think that would be powerful. And the other thing is, I think Delta Zeta has some incredible resources that and things they do that could benefit your chapters as well. Okay, so guys, thank you for the updates. One of the things, again, collaboration is going to be huge. It's just really important, and I think really the best way to do that is to have a shared chapter calendar. Really, the proconsul owns it. I'm looking for every important school date, every important chapter date, and every important initiation date. So all the consuls and proconsuls on this call, I had sent you guys all a link, but basically this is our Google Calendar. And so, you can see here, I've got the dates of the U of O chapters, the OSU execs, things like that. But let's go ahead and fill it in a little bit more, right? So winter pledge meetings, right? When's Derby days? When's initiation? When's finals week? When's dead week? Again, the reason I want to know that is because if there's an opportunity, say if Delta Zeta is having a recruitment event and you guys have nothing going on at Beta Pi or Beta Iota, can you help? Or vice versa. Also, I got to tell you from a Praetor perspective, I want to make sure that all three of my chapters are not having initiation on the same day. So anyway, so if you guys can commit to doing that, I think that will really go a long way in the collaboration and us really taking things to the next level. Another aspect, and let me unmute Berger, I'm sorry, is
Riggs, can I interrupt you for just a second?
Please.
So this is Daryl again, Delta Zeta, because you just said you sent a link to that Google Calendar. I'm not on that email group. Ron forwarded me the email for tonight's meeting. So if you would add me to that distribution list, I would appreciate that.
I'm happy to. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And then, yeah, if there's anybody else who would like to, then absolutely, I'm more than happy to. But thanks for the call out. One other thing that is pretty impressive is the Sigma Chi chapter system. And so I want to make sure that just everyone on this call is familiar with it. It's something I check out probably once a week, but I think it's pretty incredible. So here what we have here is, we have a very quick snapshot. And Steve, how great is that? Right? Zero balance for Delta Zeta. That we've been working out of a hole due to kind of some turds on the roster, and the chapter's just done an incredible job. But Berger, is there anything that you want to, any other highlights about this chapter system that you want to point out?
Honestly, as far as pointing out, there's really nothing specific that they already don't know. But just like Riggs is kind of looking at right now, every officer has access to this when they log on. Of course, it'll bring you directly to your chapter's dashboard, which will give you a snapshot of all those different areas from that are listed right here on his screen. However, each officer, depending on what they need access for, has access to do certain things. But if you scroll back up, Riggs, real fast, every single, all the way to the top, every single thing that you would need, from, of course, your finances to your roster, to your officer list, to your looking at your finances, to your pledging dashboard, to even requesting ritual regalia, ritual books, all that kind of stuff is all through chapter system. So, literally, one thing I want to point out to the Queesters on the phone that I'm not going to get too in depth because I know I've sounded like a broken, crazy rector recently, but messages from accounting this year, especially starting, I guess, last month or January, have gone out or will be going out on the 15th of each month, regardless if a chapter has a balance or not. And it's going to be just a basic email sent out to the Queester, just basically saying, please, reminder to check your balance via chapter system. And I just want to make it clear that just because you're not going to get an actual invoice that way, it is the Queester's responsibility to check, just like the finance dashboard, at least once a week to notice any new charges, any credits or balances, especially. And through the system, through that finance tab, you could go ahead and run your invoices and do the date range from back whenever to current and everything like that. And so I just want to make that part clear. And then, of course, this is where the McGeesters will be going through to enter in their new pledges on the pledging dashboard once they receive them to begin with, as well as you can also check their statuses down to the second as far as how they're doing with their e-learning and logging in and all that stuff as well. But yeah, everything is through here. It's very self-explanatory. I'm sure all the officers on call right now have not only have that access, but like I said, pretty much have full access just because of the roles of your office. And once again, also chapter system is live. So once something is processed as far as a payment from headquarters, the minute Eric Salas enters it in, it goes live and it shows that, as well as charges. So, but if there's any questions with chapter system again whatsoever, please send those to myself, and I'll definitely be able to help you with that.
Awesome, thank you. So basically, I think what we have here is between the technology that we have now, there's so many opportunities to be connected, to stay on top of stuff. But really, I think, you know, I'm looking around the province. I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't have, you know, 3 different Petersons at workshop this year. Yeah, we've just got some incredible chapters, great guys, great leadership. I'm just so impressed, you know, and so really, I just want to make sure, how can we keep this communication up? How can we keep the collaboration up? How can we make sure that everyone stays in their lane, right? Meaning, we know what we have to do, now we just have to execute on it. So this is the first Praetor conference call, the first province-wide conference call. I want to thank you guys for everything you've done. Is there anybody else who wants to chime in and say hello or bring up something that hasn't previously been talked about?
Hey Riggs, I can chime in for a minute if that's okay.
Yeah, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey gang, my name's Ryan Donahue. I live in the Portland area, and I have the opportunity with another guy named Ryan to help lead the Proconsul division at K. Chapter advisor at Montana State University, where I attended school and which is where I was initiated. And as Riggs can probably tell you, I miss it a great deal. So I guess maybe 2 things. You know, one, I think as it relates to you undergrads on the phone, if you guys need anything, you know, above and beyond what Corey or Michael or any of your chapter advisors can provide, happy to do it. I certainly missed and still do being a chapter advisor. So if there's events you need help with, strategy, officer things, whatever, certainly go through Riggs, get my contact information, and use me that way. But the other thing I'll share is just kind of a little bit of insight from some of the planning that's going on for KTLW. We're affectionately referring ourselves to as Team Croc, and I last weekend was in fact down in San Jose, which is where Keith now resides, and he actually stopped in and chatted with us, and he's incredibly excited for a guy who is now going to go serve his country in the government to be an undersecretary of state for commerce, a guy who's a billionaire and who's taken 2 companies public. You'd think he'd have maybe other things that he'd be doing right now, but he took time out of his day to come down and meet with the team, and his excitement is certainly palpable, and there's going to be some pretty cool things that are coming. A lot still kind of in flux right now, but along with some of the stuff that we talked about here today, like college credit and leadership training and so forth, it's going to be pretty cool. I'm excited to be a part of it, and for you undergrads, you guys are going to be a part of something that I think is life changing, that nobody else in the Greek world is even thinking about doing, and we're leading the way, and you guys get to be a part of it and benefit from it. So be excited about that. You know, much beyond that, like Riggs, I'm busy, so you know, try and plan me out as best you can. I do travel for work a fair amount, but I would love to come help out in whatever capacity you could use me in any of your chapters. So thanks for having me here today, Riggs.
Wonderful, thank you. You know, one other thing, so Ryan is the assistant on the Proconsul team. Obviously, he's on the Team Balfour or Team Croc. I was on it for years. One of the holes of workshop that we've identified is that, say, for example, if you've been elected very recently, that means you might have to wait 6, 7, 8 months to get training on how to do your job. And so one of the things that we've been working on secretly for the last several years is actually creating like a set of training videos to help you with some of the basic aspects, say like being Queister 101 or ProConsole 101 or Console 101 or Magister 101. That way we can give you some on-demand training well before. So it's nice because Ryan and I both have access to a lot of that material. So look for us to start sharing that with you guys, because again, we would rather by the time you guys all get to workshop this summer, that you guys are ready for the graduate level coursework rather than the introductory stuff. But again, we are pulling out all the stops and we're kind of going through the secret, the super secret materials that we have to make sure that you guys are the best officers, the best leaders, and ultimately have the best Sigma Chi experience that you can. So with that, that's all of my call. That's all the comments I had. Thank you guys for your time. I hope this has been worthwhile. If you guys have anything else, please let me know. But appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Riggs.
Riggs. Yeah, thank you.